Today's episode of the More You Know podcast is brought to you by CrowdQuestion, a brand new social communication platform focused on connecting crowds to bring everyone closer to their community, as well as enhancing any occasion. Rather than being a social media platform focused on content and advertising, they're focused on communication and connection. Learn more about the platform and download the app free at crowdquestion.com.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
Today's
More
You
No
podcast.
Today I want to share Phil Robertson's journey to crafting a life of significance. So Phil Robertson was born in Vivian, Louisiana in 1946. He was the fifth of 7 children, and because of the financial setbacks his parents faced during his childhood, the family lived through rugged conditions. They had no electricity, toilet, or bathtub. They rarely bought groceries and instead lived off the fruits and vegetables from their garden, and meat they hunted and fished, as well as pigs, chicken, and cattle they raised. As an athlete in high school, Phil was all-state in football, baseball, and track, which gave him the opportunity to attend Louisiana State on a football scholarship in the late 60s. At this time, he also married his high school sweetheart, Marcia K. Caraway. While at Louisiana Tech, he was the starting quarterback, playing ahead of the first overall pick in the 1970 NFL Draft and Hall of Famer Terry Bradshaw. Robertson had a potential to play in the NFL, but instead he was more interested in hunting. He'd come to practice directly from hunting in the woods, and even after getting out of college, was recruited by the Washington Redskins, and ended up declining the offer because it conflicted with hunting. Phil ended his time at Louisiana Tech with receiving a bachelor's degree in physical education and a master's in education. Then he spent several years teaching, then ran a bar, and eventually became a commercial fisherman. During this time in the 70s, his marriage was highly strained, and this was due to his sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle. He excessively drank, and during this time he even had a daughter named Phyllis with another woman, and eventually had a religious awakening, which he credits to getting his life together. Well, shortly after this time, due to being an avid duck hunter, Phil began to experiment with making a duck call that would produce the exact sound of a duck, and he invented his first successful duck call called the Duck Commander in 1972. By 1973, he received a patent and incorporated the Duck Commander Company. The business was initially run through a dilapidated boat, and the duck calls were made from Louisiana cedar trees. Eventually, Phil and the Duck Commander Company found great success, and by the year 2012, they reached $40 million in revenue. Also in 2012, the reality television series called Duck Dynasty surrounding his family and the Duck Commander Company began airing. The show ran from 2012 to 2017, covering the daily lives within Duck Commander and his family, and at this point, Phil, along with the rest of the Robertson family, became household names. Phil Robertson has no doubt lived an interesting life. He came from the most humble beginnings, not even having electricity or being able to afford groceries. He then used his athletic abilities to get him into college, and even though he came out of college with promising opportunities, having the potential to be in the NFL, as well as having degrees in education, he ended up being quite lost for a period of time, going through various jobs, but eventually he followed his passion and his true love of hunting, coming up with the first Duck Commander duck call, and from here started his own business, which eventually became a multi-million-dollar family business that inspired an extremely successful reality TV show, which he then used to increase awareness surrounding his business, as well as entertain and inspire other people, as he lifted him and his family up to new heights. He was poor, he was an addict, he had a strained relationship, and he was lost professionally, but eventually everything came together surrounding his passions and his relationship with God, and with time, he crafted a life of significance that changed his life, his family's lives, as well as many other people throughout the world. I hope this talk makes a positive impact in your life. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening or watching it. Check out other episodes. Leave a review. Follow the podcast on social media at More You Know Pod, and sign up for CrowdQuestion to ask me questions about the episode. Again, thank you for listening as we propel through podcasting with the More You Know.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
Today's
More
You
No
podcast.